So welcome everyone to this webinar. Today we're going to talk about a subject that I'm sure you are talking with your friends, families, colleagues for the past month. I know I said weeks when we were training for this session, and Albert kind of mocked me. Not very nice. But yeah, not weeks, months, and actually for some people years, as we gonna talk about, because yeah, in this industry, AI has been a word that is going around for a long time, but less for the general public. Today, I will be joined by none other than Lee Frazier from Keysight and Albert Reyes from SQALogic. I am Quentin, and I will be your host today. Lee, do you want to start introducing yourself and Keysight?
Yes. So my name is Lee Frazier. I am the partner pre-sales manager for Keysight Eggplant. So I do webinars like this, technical enablement, and just general overall product awareness. So happy to be here, happy to participate. Keysight is really a testing tool company, whether that's software testing or hardware testing.
Perfect. Albert, your turn.
Hello, everyone. Albert here. I am the pre-sales engineer for SQALogic. I've been in the industry for a little bit over 20 years, believe it or not. Basically, I work with David Miller, which is our co-founder and CTE. So basically, what we do is we help organizations establish and build out their QA practices, regardless of the methodologies, regardless of the tooling. We really are dedicated to finding solutions for everyone's issues or problems that they're facing today.
All right. Thank you, guys. And here you can see the talking track that we're going to use today. We usually do this kind of webinar as a conversation. There is a little bit of scripted things, but we don't like to script the whole thing. So this is my my slide to let everyone knows that if you want to interact in the chat, if you want to ask question during the webinar, feel free to do so. We like to do it interactive. So I will take your question and ask them to the two experts we have here today at the end of this webinar.
So it's controlled chaos, in other words.
Oh, yeah, I
Exactly.
like this way of saying it. Yes. So let's start with a general slide. AI in software quality assurance. What does it mean? What's the impact of AI in software quality assurance? Albert, do you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So AI in software quality assurance, it's generally out there. Methodologies and practices are still being built out. Definitely, it's nothing new. It's just technology is getting better at realizing it. Definitely, it helps with the points that you have up there on your slide, which is addressing those repetitive tasks, improving the accuracy and the overall efficiency of your testing. Um, and definitely adding machine learning, or when you go into your LLMs, it definitely helps you put it all together and produce better quality work, and maybe even address underlying risks that you weren't aware, doing it with automation testing or just manual testing that people are still to this day doing. So, Lee, what would you think?
Yeah,
What do you think of AI?
I did a report in college about AI, and that's been a few decades ago. Let's just leave it at that. So it's definitely not new, but it is becoming more democratized or becoming more something that we can all access. And it's not new in software quality in the testing arena, but it's not, they're not all created equal. So yeah, the AI can help you in enhancing the quality and the accuracy of the repetitive tasks. We're going to talk about a lot of that, but definitely not something that's new, just out there for everyone to access now.
And I have a little question that may introduce another subject. So let's not go too far, but I want to ask it because I'm just thinking right now, I'm watching the slide and we put a brain here. And I know that some people, when they talk about AI, they hesitate between, should I put a brain to illustrate AI or should I put a robot? And I feel like this is a big difference because a brain is supposed to function by itself while a robot needs to be set up and you need to give him some tasks to do. So just really fast, Lee first, would you choose a brain or a robot to define AI?
So AI almost needs to be defined. Are we talking about artificial intelligence, augmented intelligence, or automation intelligence? And in the realm we're talking about today, I would choose a robot because it's really more about automation intelligence, to give something to that robot and then allow it to do the repetitive tasks. It's not, and we're going to talk about this, it's not something that's going to go out there and just say, point me to your application and I will test it. It's not that far. Albert, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, totally on board with you. If anything, I would make it into a dog robot, whereas it's more of a companion that needs guidance and can do these automated tasks for you, right? And it will assist you to find very specific things that you might have missed and that are potentially need to be flagged as things that you should be aware of or hasn't been covered in your tests. So it definitely goes and sniffs it out for you. So that's why I would use more of a robotic dog analogy in this case.
Sorry.
That's a good analogy. Sorry, because it can find things that you're just not looking for because maybe its size, maybe the way it's looking. I like that, Albert.
Perfect. Thank you for the both of us. I wanted to talk about something else, but we're gonna wait because we're gonna talk about the workforce and replacing people later in this webinar. So we talk a little bit about the benefits, but I would like you both to go deeper into each of them.
Sure.
Albert, if you want to start.
Yeah, so basically the benefit of it is definitely being able to find those potential missing elements of your tests, being able to be more accurate with those said tests, and be able to ultimately what all businesses are trying to achieve is reduce costs, right? Cost savings, manage to reduce the time that their testing engineers or test experts are uh, using in building these tests and repetitively executing them. You're replacing that with more critical aspects of your business. So they're diverting their time and investing their time towards something that's more important to the company rather than those what is it those overlaying fruits or hanging fruits. So basically, for me, from an SQALogic perspective, I believe that those are the benefits of AI in today's testing world, where with the implementation of machine learning and all these other things that go together with AI, uh, definitely there is much to still be developed when it comes to a methodology and a practice. I believe that that is still coming, but we're still learning, and it definitely still needs to be streamlined.
Right.
Yeah, definitely agree. Everyone's coming out with AI, and it means something different to each company, each organization. But what you've got here, the increased accuracy, let's let the automation intelligence do what it's good at. and that might be smoke testing. It might be, doing a complete regression test. It's the repetitive tasks, Albert, as you so put it so well. And then cost savings, the speed to market, so that I don't have to, well, it's going to take our team 5 weeks to test a development cycle that took 2 weeks. Now we're slowing down, and the organizations are going to be more likely to put out bad code and just bypass testing. We've got AI is the tool that's going to allow us to get there faster, better, more efficient. I mean, all the topic points we're talking about here.
It sounds like a game changer. I'm introducing a slide we will see later.
Got it.
So this is like those two slides, I would say, the previous one and this one go hands by hands. I think the big difference is here is the mention of eggplant. Lee, do you want to talk a little bit about what is eggplant?
Yes. So let me back into what is eggplant just a little bit here. But when we talk about revolutionized the software testing and quality assurance arena, I believe that not to be an exaggeration, because so many people that I talk to, they puff out their chest and say, I've got 10,000 test cases, or, I've got 2,000 if it's a small application. And, I quickly ask them, well, how many user journeys do you have in your application? And they just kind of, user journeys, what's that mean? And they don't know. So that's what eggplant and AI, the automation intelligence, is going to bring to the table. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but being able to improve your testing efficiency and accuracy. A robot's good at sitting there all day long. It doesn't take bathroom breaks. It doesn't need water. It just needs some guidance on the front end, and then someone to evaluate how did it do on the back end? How was the testing? And really to detect those anomalies, do those repetitive tasks, and provide the valuable insights for, we found this, and then we went across the application looking for similar things, or, whatever it is. As Albert mentioned, that dog robot is very appropriate, in my opinion, very accurate, because we're testing it completely. As a user might use the application, because we all know that users use the application exactly the way we expect them to, right?
All the time.
Yeah, exactly. All the time. And that's from someone that
yeah, exactly.
that
And what is it? Was it
happen.
70% of the time they use it 100% of the way it's intended to?
Yeah, and 80% of percentages are made up on the fly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's really how eggplant can help. And it's not an exaggeration to say it's revolutionizing the software quality and testing arena. So Albert, what have you seen? What's been your experience around AI with your customers?
Yeah, definitely. What we've seen in the industry is the successful implementations of this in QA has revolved around getting rid of those repetitive tasks, right? The repetitive tests, the smoke tests as well. It's getting all that out of the way to provide that extra time for the QA analysts or QA test leads to really focus on what matters most. And that's where we've seen the biggest ROI.
Excellent.
Now, let's talk about the big subject, because as I'm gonna talk as a out of the industry guy, a normal guy, let's say that. I feel like AI is exploding right now, and you said that before. This is not something new, but everyone is talking about suddenly, I mean, not suddenly, but since last year with the with ChatGPT, Midjourney coming out, a lot of talk about the AI, but as you said before, this is actually not such a new thing. So why is it that right now everyone is talking about it? Is it because it's more accessible to the general public? Is it because the tools are getting better? What's your opinion on that?
So I can start this one off. Let me take out my little soapbox here. So is it a buzzword? I believe like any other practice, just like 15 years ago, or about 15 years ago, test automation was the big buzzword, right? And now it's just become a common term in the QA practice. It's just something that people try to drive their practice towards. AI will be that next step where it's what you're envisioning. It's something that is just being developed more, or there's more emphasis in the development of it. So, along with AI, which I don't think it's a buzzword anymore, it's just become commonplace in QA, and it's just the where my next step in the evolution of my practice is going towards. That being said, also the other things that you have to keep in mind are, and this goes a little bit with um, individuals' roles when it comes to using AI. Um, Other things that have evolved or have changed, or buzzwords out there, are the terms that you're using for roles. So generative AI engineering, prompt engineering. It's all these quality AI engineering. It's all these terms that are being now, they're coming out and they're being formally established in the industry, where if someone just wants to become a quality assurance tester, well, are you really a tester, or are you an engineer? Or you really have to define these differences. And I believe that that is what is creating the big buzz, is that things are shifting. The tool mentality, the mindset that you need to implement these and use these, that's shifting, along with the roles that go along with them.
And Albert, I'll agree and I'll disagree on some aspects. It is game changing, but at the same time, it's for some companies it's buzzwords. I consume AI content from all the sources that I can, and I watched a webinar last week about how another testing tool was AI, and it proceeded to just be a demo. And AI was not involved. AI was the buzzword that they used to get people on the webinar, but there was no content behind it. So it is very much a game-changing capability, but a lot of people throw it out there as a buzzword.
Yeah, to exploit the algorithm.
All right.
Exactly.
And I wanted to ask, I'm gonna ask it to both of you. Isn't it also a buzzword right now, because everyone is scared, getting scared of AI, because we hear around us all the time, AI is gonna replace everyone. We're gonna get fired and replaced by AI. Don't you think there is also that scare that is making it such a buzzword at the
Yeah,
moment?
yeah, definitely. And I see where it's at. I see where the legacy users are, where when you're very well established in the industry, and you know the practice, and when you're closer to retirement, it's very hard to change those mindsets. And even today, it's like, there are certain projects that I work on where that's definitely one of the key elements that is causing a roadblock with the evolution of the QA practice, is definitely um, people that are set in their ways and that don't want to evolve with the changing trends or the changing practice. Um, so, do people need to be afraid? Not necessarily, because I believe this is a reference that I gave Lee not too long ago. But we still need mainframe people that know COBOL, people that know all these older legacy languages. They're still very, very relevant in the IT industry. Now, is it something that organizations want to think about, or that they want to invest in? Maybe not, but they have their place and they do belong. And I even credit my career to the old dogs of the of the mainframe days, because that's where I started out. So be afraid? No. I would say we're in a point where you need to embrace change and you need to go with the flow and understand how the landscape is changing.
Yeah, and I agree. Interesting note. I started out in the mainframe as well. But yeah, is AI going to make you lose your job? No. But at the same time, someone using AI might make you lose your job. So I'm with Albert, embrace AI where appropriate. And we're going to talk about on future slides. It may not be, and this from a software vendor, this is hard to hear. It may not be appropriate for you. So that's where you have to actually honestly assess where you are. And if it's appropriate in any way, and SQALogic can help, you embrace AI.
Absolutely.
And at the end of this slide, we are saying this is not a magic solution, and there is limitation to this tool. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about those limitations? If you had to choose one, Lee, what's the main limitation of using AI?
Well, yeah, it's AI is not going to go beyond what you offer it to be able to do. So if I mentioned before, you just point it towards your application and just say go, that's a limitation. It's not going to be able to do that. It's just going to look at you and I don't have anything to look at. So there's a certain amount of configuration. There's a certain amount of human interaction that needs to be there, needs to be provided. So even embracing AI, again, it's not magic. That your game just changes for what you end up doing, directing the AI, building models, and we'll talk about this later, for your application so that AI can explore it and give you a better result, a better outcome.
Absolutely. And if I can add one last word, if you want to know what the latest buzzword is in the industry, it's autonomous testing. And that's sort of where we're not at yet. We're not there yet, but we do have some insight in terms of it is coming, or at least a beta iteration of it. And it's exciting times if you're in the QA space. So basically, like any other conversations, it becomes obsolete real quick. So this
Yeah.
conversation, give it a few more months, and we might be changing the entire topic of it. So
I was about to
Yeah.
say thank you for giving me an idea for our next webinar.
And
welcome.
Gen AI. I mean, that's all over LinkedIn right now. Gen AI. What does it exactly mean? I think it's different for everybody, but that's another buzzword coming out now.
Yeah, it's a different flavor. Yeah.
Yep.
We will do a webinar about both the subject. Promise. And we were saying it's not a magical tool, but it's also a tool, AI, that need ethical and legal aspect surrounding it. I'm gonna start with ethical aspects. Lee.
So, I mean, it's the ethical aspects. I think this is actually more Albert, but it's not going to take over your job. It has to have human oversight because partially AI is going to do what you direct it to do. So there's certain biases that it has. And if you only set it up to do happy path testing, great. It does a great job at happy path. But you need someone like SQALogic, or you need to be able to think through the process for how else do I need to be able to set this up so it tests it correctly. There's some thought that needs to go into it for that direction. Otherwise, you're going to get through testing your application and you might not have tested edge cases. You might not have tested all the things that could lose you money, make you money, or someone, if you're in certain industries, people die when you don't test these things correctly. So that's my ethical side. You've got to have a human involved in every aspect.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I second what Lee says there. Seeing, I know a little bit of security. Um, you know, the key things to keep in mind when it comes to the ethical aspect when implementing an AI-based tool or anything involving AI is definitely the accountability and the responsibility in the AI testing, right? You gotta have those practices. You have to have those methodologies properly secured. You have to ensure that you're protecting your organization's data. You have to make sure that any AI related security feature is looked at and approved, or at least considered from your security teams internally. Um, Definitely, you do need a green light from the powers that be in your organizations, right? So, addressing any biases and ensuring fairness in the AI algorithm, it's all things that need to be considered when talking about the ethical aspect of implementing this technology.
And don't put your code in ChatGPT, okay? Because this is something
Oh,
that
actually,
train.
yeah, this is definitely something that we could talk about in terms of responsibility towards protecting your organization's data, right? I believe, Lee, you have a great anecdote when it comes to this.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was early days of ChatGPT. Organizations were uploading their code to ChatGPT, thinking it was private, and then they quickly found out ChatGPT kept their code. So they have proprietary code that they've developed for something internal that now they've given it out to ChatGPT that everyone could have access to. So that was an early day, and that was a definite no-no. And organizations now are coming out with policies. Keysight came out with one just recently saying you can't use ChatGPT, or if you do, you can't upload. And it was rather detailed, but yeah, that's a huge concern. Where does your data go?
And the best way of containing that is deploying an open AI or an AI system in your own environment where you have full control of where the data is going and how it's being used.
Right.
And you make me think of the word education. I feel like this is a problem with educating people. It's like I remember we had a conversation, Albert and I, recently about the incognito mode and people being surprised that Google has the data of the website that they went to in incognito mode. And I feel like this is
Biggest scam out there,
I
in my
feel
opinion.
this is a result of a lack of education. And I want to ask, I suppose you are reading a lot about AI in the recent month. Do you have any resource in mind where you want to redirect people so they can read about AI and be more
Oh,
informed about this technology?
there's a lot of different sources of truth. Definitely best practices are developed from vendors and these bigger organizations, CompTIA and stuff like that. So definitely, if anybody's interested in gaining more information on AI with quality assurance specifically, they can always reach out to Lee and myself for those links, or just a general conversation as to how they should start. And I believe there's even a slide on that later on.
Yep, there is. We talked a lot about the ethical aspect. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the legal one now. And this is still in progress, like, and not only in the QA industry. We could also talk about the movie industry recently with the strikes in Hollywood. Uh, Things are still like adapting to AI. And
Yeah.
again, that's funny because we come back to what we said before, that everybody is adapting urgently, like on the fly, while it's not a new thing and we knew it was coming. So yeah, I don't understand why people are just reacting now. And I realize I'm part of
Well,
the problem,
yeah.
but yeah, I'm
Well, I can comment to this. It's basically it's a shift in people's day to day. Um, embracing change is not it's not part of human nature necessarily. You know, we like stability. We like being in a sort of framed environment where any disruption, even if it's like I'll take an example, and we're not sponsored or anything by Apple, but every time that they have one of their major deployments, it's a you got to get used to the new interface. You got to get used to the new button layouts. It's like there's definitely incremental disruptions in the industry, and I believe that the legal aspects is one of them as well. They the legalities, like I believe the features are being released quicker than these legal organizations or entities can review them and actually attack them as soon as they come out. So sometimes they're trying to change policies, or they're trying to change something that a vendor released out in the public in regards to AI or regards to general technology, and they're months behind. So you see them in court several months later just to address some kind of data privacy feature that was changed or anything of that sort. So definitely the legal compliance when it comes to AI is very important. I suggest strongly to everyone to keep up with all the feature updates, with everything that's being modified in the terms and conditions. When using AI, um, be aware of what's being changed in what you're adopting, right? Because that's the whole purpose of this is when adopting an AI tool, you have to stay up to date. And if you're not, then you can have these data leakage. You can have misrepresentation because of a specific feature change. So you're not getting the same results as you used to before. So it's all these legal aspects, right? It's also the other part of it is permissions, using the tool without permission, or basically adopting a chat GPT internally when it wasn't authorized by the organization. Chat GPT, like Lee mentioned, it's very public. It's very much out there. So unless you have a install internal to your organization, then you have zero control over this stuff. And one last aspect is the unintended use of the tool, right? Are you using it for what it was meant to, or are you sort of using it in a non standard way? And that brings
Yeah.
a whole different ball game, you know?
So, and one couple areas I'll glom on here is if you have to deal with any type of compliance, whether that's GDPR, HIPAA, PCI, or name your 3 to 4 or 5 letter acronym here, this is really the convergence of hosting and AI. You have, even if it's your own private cloud, where is it hosted? Is your data leaving the country? Is your data going outside your protected areas where you've got to keep it? Even if it's your own private cloud, you've got these concerns because all the software now is, hey, I want to run it online. I want to run it in AWS or whatever. But you've got concerns because even if it, like I mentioned, even if it's your own private cloud, does it, could it fail over to the US, to Canada, to wherever? Your data could then end up leaving with no intention from you, and you're violating some legal aspects here.
Yeah.
And who should I ask that kind of question internally? For example, I feel like, and Albert, tell me if I'm wrong, if I want to use an AI tool, are you the one I should go and ask, hey, is it okay to use this tool? Or should I trust myself and just do a Google research and like go?
Well, yeah, that's a very good point. And I believe we have a slide that talks on that. It's basically the steps that we recommend. Definitely, we recommend people doing their own research and consulting a company such as SQALogic, that we can guide them with a non-bias in terms of the solutions and the practices around them. And we can definitely help them really assess where they're at with their own practice, make sure that the goals and objectives are properly defined before moving forward with anything. And basically here, maybe a step that we would like to clarify for people is I would flip step 4 and 3, where I would develop a strategy of how to implement and what you're going to implement and what all the processes should be before even thinking about like selecting a tool that will be suitable for your company. So here right on the screen is a good framework for people if they're looking at, okay, well, how should I start? What should I keep in mind? These are really good base steps that they could take towards adopting or implementing an AI solution in their practice, and especially if it comes to a tool, a quality assurance tool that has AI embedded. That usually is best practice to go straight to the vendor or to a authorized partner of those vendors to get more information and to just get that baseline information that you need to make an educated decision. Lee, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree because I've seen folks adopt the software without a strategy, without direction, with a misunderstanding of exactly what AI is going to do. And it's almost like they point the computer towards their server farm and it's going to test it, right? When you don't have a strategy, when you don't have an understanding, you're asking for failure. So completely agree. You need a process. This is a great place to start. And SQALogic is great at developing this with you, understanding your needs, and then taking you to that point where it is valuable, it is useful, and you do get a return on investment.
And do you think, like, because someone were saying, what if I'm a little company with not a lot of revenue? Do you think that this framework, those steps are adapted for any company, or would you say it's more for, I would say, medium to big company, and the more little one should like wait before investing in AI?
Yeah, well, I'll take this one. Um, you really do have to assess what your business requirements are and if they line up with what AI is capable of delivering or of producing, right? Um, if you're a small organization, um, there's different people, right? In IT, you have people that just like to adopt solutions just for the hell of it, just to be able to say that they're at the cusp of technology, they're bleeding edge, they have the latest and greatest. But how are you using it? Well, you're barely using it because you're efficient without it as well. So uh, there's those tech companies out there, or just regular companies out there, and you have the people that just have no bandwidth to handle this type of thing, or it just doesn't correspond to the type of business that they're working on. So is it a solution for everyone? I believe Lee mentioned this earlier. Not really. You really do have to take a step back and build a proper strategy and just see, is this something that our company would benefit from? And
Yeah.
take it from there.
Yeah, I completely agree. The only thing I would say is even for the small companies, it depends on your tolerance of risk, the size of your market for your application. Because even if you're a small revenue, but if you release a bad version, it would be huge to your bottom line. Then that gets into justifying doing the extra work, getting the extra testing. If you desperately need to always put out a good product and keep your name out of the paper negatively, then that's justification. But if it's, the democratized testing, to use that word twice in one webinar, if it's, the Netflix, the Facebooks books of the world, they make change and then they deliver it to one small subset of the area, and you are the tester. If that's your model, okay, then you need to employ AI testing. You've got other concerns, but if it's a major impact to your bottom line, and then we have to make some considerations there. But it's not for everybody.
All right, so no fear of being late to the party? Because before
No. No, it's
talk
still
about
evolving. It's still changing. It's the practices are still being built around it. So is do people think it's too late? No, you come try to adopt it within the next 5 years. You're still an early adopter. Look at automation testing. 15 years later, some organizations still don't have it. So, and they're still doing things manually on
Very,
Excel or Word or Notepad. That's how they're keeping track of all their bugs, of all the tests that they have. So, are you going to be late? No, not really. It's just, are you ready for it? That's the
yeah,
main question.
I would agree.
so you would say like if you don't invest in AI, you should still be informed, keep yourself informed about what's happening also around.
Uh, Absolutely, absolutely. If you do quality software quality testing in your organization, it's good to know what's how your industry is evolving, right? Because like I mentioned earlier, with the legacy people and legacy systems, there's still a place for it. It's just that you're not being very efficient at what you're doing. So the mark here is efficiency. That's what it'll help you with. AI is just a companion that'll help you with efficiency.
Yeah, I would agree. And there's, as people in automated testing in general and IT aspects, we have an obligation to stay up to speed on all the technology that's out there, because, there might come a point where, this AI technology goes far beyond what we're talking about today, and we'll do a webinar on that. But but you
Noted.
need to stay up on all the content, because it could change drastically suddenly and provide a big benefit to you.
All right. Anything else to say about the steps, or was it?
You feel free to reach out if you have questions.
Yeah, of course. And okay, so we talked a little bit about that before, but of course, when people talk about AI, they think of this fear, they get scared of that idea that AI is gonna replace all of us. And I'm more of a marketing guy, so I know what I'm talking about. Uh, you can hear in the marketing field a lot of professionals scared that AI is gonna replace them. You can hear it in the movie industry. We talked about movie before. You can hear it in the music industry now too. AI is starting to reproduce voice of artists we are used to listen to, even some that are dead. That's crazy. That's mind blowing.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about the QA
So
industry? What can you say about that?
so I believe I'll just echo what I mentioned earlier and what Lee sort of talked upon. Um, So definitely it's an evolution. There are changes being made to the industry, uh, mainly titles, right? So generative AI engineering or prompt engineer. It's like these titles of what your typical roles are today are shifting. And
Yeah.
as I said, if I echo a little bit of what Lee said before, it's you got to embrace the change and you got to evolve with the time. So, uh, are you going to be left behind? No, it's if you don't adapt to the changes, then yeah, you might be replaced by someone that does know how to use the AI within the tool set, right? Um, so that would be my stance on AI in the workforce is that I've seen it in multiple other webinars. I've seen our good partners also talk about it, and it's not a you'll be replaced, you'll be kicked out, you have no more work. It's more of you need to change with the times, and the roles are just evolving into something else. Now, Do you need a workforce of 100 testers? Maybe that'll change. Like the quantity of people that you need to actually run all these tests and run the practice, that'll maybe change a little bit. But no, you should embrace the change and evolve with the times.
Yeah. And I would only just talk about some examples here. We used to have, in days long before me, thankfully, we used to have people that would operate buttons and close elevator doors. That doesn't happen anymore. But now we have people that write the software for elevator efficiency. We used to have people that would operate the switchboard on telephones. Yes, that used to be a thing. Many people, the younger crowd, might not remember that or have ever seen that. I don't remember it. I have seen it. But we have computers now that handle the switching between all those between those things. So the job changes, the job elevates, and that's what I would say here. It's not going to replace you. It's going to make you overlook what's going on. Hey, that was wrong. We need to change this. Or the reporting aspect, I need to report up. How are we doing? When are we going to be done? Are we going to be ready for the next evolution, the next rev? So it just, as Albert mentioned, it's going to elevate your job. You're going to be doing other things.
All right. So yeah, when I talk about AI replacing jobs with people, the argument, sorry, that came a lot is that yes, most of the job we have today didn't exist in the past. So more than stealing job, it's also gonna create new one. If we have someone watching today that is just starting in the QA industry and is very interested by working with AI tools, um, what, how would you name that? What role? How do you name that role? The guy internally that is like focusing on AI.
It would probably be a AI engineer, right? Or a generative AI engineer or a testing engineer. It's all roles that I've seen being adopted in
Yeah.
the industry. If you look at any platform that are people that are looking for work in the field, those are specifically the terms that are coming up in the listings. Is we are looking for a test automation AI engineer, or we are looking for an AI tester, or so these terms are becoming more mainstream, more common amongst the practice. So, um, do I want to give a specific label to someone? Not really, but I would definitely tell them if they're coming into the workforce now, you're better off just getting a little bit of both, right? Understanding where the practice comes from and where it's at today. So because you can't forget your roots, or you can't forget where the practice came from and what the objective of quality assurance testing is. If you just test for testing and not test the right things, then you're just creating a vicious cycle of bad testing and bad practice.
Yeah. And, Albert, as the title of this webinar, I mean, it's a hard look at AI. It's understanding. If you're in that arena and you're looking for a job, or you're looking to augment with AI and really change that, it's becoming educated on everything that's out there. What is it? What is it not? And then being able to implement that as part of your practice for your company or the company you're looking to get a job with. So really, my recommendation would be consume all the information that you can, and then really take a hard look at it. It's not magic. It's not going to do everything for you. It has to be managed, and that's going to provide you a better outcome.
Right. Thank you to both of us for answering that question. Is there anything we want to address about AI replacing the workforce? I think, I'm sorry. What I need to drink a little bit more. What I
I think we're done beating this dead robotic dog.
Yeah, and I feel like the main thing we need to remember, I need to remember, the main info I'm gonna take from what you said is that AI cannot works by itself. Uh, there
Not
needs
yet.
human.
Not yet. You
Oh, okay,
do
you're gonna
need
you wanna scare
you do need
people
human interaction regardless.
for now,
Yeah.
but okay. So question, you say for now. When do you think, and I'm gonna ask you to put your Nostradamus shoes, when do you think AI will be
Um,
by
Look,
itself?
it'll never be autonomous, right? Because someone has to implement it, someone has to configure it, someone has to tell it what its objectives are, and that's where these prompt engineers come into play, right? It's once it's set up, once it's installed, they have to prompt the AI or the AGI behind this technology to actually do what it's supposed to do. So as a new employee, well, they're going to need training as well. And AI is just as good as the information you feed it. So the more, the cleaner the data that's fed into it, and the more detailed and descriptive it is, the more it has to work with to produce quality results and quality reports at the end. Well, as they say, garbage in, garbage out, right? So if
Yeah.
your data is not cleansed, if your data is erroneous at some point, then you're just feeding bad data into your AI system. And we know that AI lies, or AI just gives its own perspective into what you're asking it.
Or get
So you
lazy?
really, they gets lazy as well. Exactly, it gets very lazy. So that's just something that, you know, for the future, my Nostradamus, I don't think we're there yet. Autonomous testing is, I'm guessing, the next iteration of this. And it's like, almost like we're skipping AI and we're going straight into autonomous testing, right? So, um, yeah, I look forward to seeing what the next 5 to 10 years will give.
Yeah, and I would agree everything Albert said, and I would just extend it to saying we have no clear path to ever getting to where AI is going to be able to take over. So is it 5 to 10 years away? I would say it's probably longer than that, if ever.
All right. Thank you, guys. Let's talk a little bit about the eggplant. And here I'm gonna let you start, Lee, of course. Um, what can you
Nice little
Sure.
spotlight on our
wh-
partners.
where is eggplant like? What's the point of eggplant in this discussion?
Yeah, so Eggplant has the AI built into it. Again, automation intelligence, AI and machine learning built into it. So Eggplant operates in many aspects the same way that you have other tools. You can do manual test cases, you can do and record and playback. That's all built in. But where we differ is that we can create a model of your application to understand how it interacts with other applications, other parts of the application, and really understand what users can do. Because of that model, we can layer right on top all of our AI machine learning and start to make better informed decisions, finding bugs. When we find a bug, we look throughout all parts of the application because some parts of applications are reused. Data entry forms might be reused, or what is, certain parts of web pages. We find it once, we look over all the application for that similar type of code, that similar settings, and give you more and faster bug detection. Reduce time to testing. This is all what we've talked about, just giving you the repetitive tasks, knocking those out just straight out of the bat, so that you come in the next day after a CI/CD pipeline build and you've done your regression test. Great. Now it's up to you to do the reporting on it. How did it go? How does it look? Did it pass? Did it get past the smoke test, etc. And then always giving you, because of that model, the improved test coverage. We're giving you better coverage because we understand what a user can do. As we mentioned earlier, users always use the application the way we expect, right? Of course not. So we give you better test coverage and can show you, hey, you've got 10,000 user journeys through this application. Now, of course, you can weight those and say, you know what, these are more important. Anything that makes us money, loses us money are more important. So maybe we don't ever get to all of them. That's management. That's where you're involved. And then just giving you better resource allocation. So that's Eggplant. We're built for the AI discussion, and that's why we're talking about it here today.
All right. And what's the place of SQALogic in all of this, Albert?
Yeah, well, definitely it's the other side of the coin. So where Eggplant specializes in the tools and the implementation of the AI or embedding AI into the tools, we help organizations implement the practices and ensuring that they're properly educated and they have the right skill sets to be able to use said application. Because we all know that without proper frameworks, without proper methodology, without the processes and the people, the tool just becomes shelfware, right? You invest, and ultimately it's either not deployed or it's not utilized by the right teams, and it just dies somewhere, and it just becomes a costly paperweight, right? Uh, Organizations, we've recently seen that this is happening still amongst all these organizations. And there's not a specific vertical of business that is worse than the other, but it's right across every single industry. Is right. It really does depend on how well it's deployed, and are your processes properly established before selecting a tool. Because you never want to really build a practice around a tool. You want to have a practice and then go select a tool that fits your needs, your organization's needs.
Yep.
And Eggplant is very suited for those organizations that, they believe that they're not well trained or they don't have the proper skill sets. Eggplant can show you otherwise.
All right, and I have a question. How do I make sure that Eggplant is the most fitted tool for me, for my needs? As Albert just said, you can contact SQALogic if you have any question and want to talk about this tool. But also, we are not gonna do that today, but I think people can ask for a demo on Keysight website.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yep. You can go to keysight.com and you can research Eggplant in there and ask for a demo. And we're happy to help, happy to educate you on what Eggplant can really do.
And I will say, don't hesitate also to contact Lee and Albert if you have any question and any feedbacks actually for this webinar.
Fantastic.
Great.
Always available, always happy to talk to people.
Yep,
And as you
definitely.
can see on this slide, you can contact them by email too. So we just asked a question. I'm gonna check if I
Well,
have.
actually, before we go into the Q&A, I want to my closing remarks here is everyone just has to keep in mind that um, everything that's out there, everything AI based, everything in quality assurance is to help those practitioners relieve some of that stress that they're living. Because we all know that all the testers out there's quite a bit of pressure on your shoulders, and tools and methodologies and practices. All this is all built around helping you to streamline it, to relieve some of that stress that's put upon your shoulders. So definitely having a good practice, having good people around you with the proper skill sets, and having a good tool to help you mitigate that stress are all key components to a proper adoption of a QA or AI QA practice.
Agreed.
Okay. And I have a question for you, Lee. And this is my question. This is not coming from the chat. I heard a lot, I heard the word automated a lot. And we know that AI means artificial intelligence. And when we talked today, now I feel like A should be more about automation than artificial. Am I completely wrong?
Well, see, and that's there's a bit of confusion in the industry. People talk AI and it's assumed artificial intelligence. And that's not where most of the companies are. Now, do we have large language models? Do we have a lot of data built in? Do we have a lot of knowledge? Yes, but it truly is more about automation intelligence. How are we enabling that automation across your application so we can get better, smarter, more efficient tests of your application with our automation intelligence and machine learning without you being as involved with the repetitive tasks, the boring stuff. Let's elevate you to be able to do the management, the thinking of the additional edge cases, the additional testing you need to do.
All right. And Albert, what would be your opinion on that? Would you keep the artificial or would you keep the automated?
Well, yeah, no, it definitely leans more towards the automation intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. Look, it's in some respects, people can even say RPA is artificial intelligence, right? It's not. It really is just a series of it's engineering. It really is what it is. It's engineering. And it's people putting processes and configuring their environments and their tools to do certain things in a very repetitive manner. Um, yeah, no, I would keep it in terms of automation intelligence rather than artificial. I don't think we've reached the artificial intelligence in the industry yet.
Okay.
No, definitely not.
Lee, question regarding eggplant. How do you make sure that the data are secured?
Great question, because we did talk about legal and ethical. So to make sure your data is secure, Eggplant can be completely installed on-prem, air-gapped. We never phone home. So any of our AI that's applied can remain completely in your control. There's never a time when we have to offload that. Now, there could be concerns. We do have hosted versions. So if you do that, we make sure it's hosted in your geographic location inside of your area. But again, we don't ever reconsume that information. It's always and only yours.
So it's on my computer, not yours.
Oh,
Your
your
computer,
environment.
but even when it's hosted, it's on
Yeah.
our computer, our AWS in the cloud, but it's still your data. And so we never consume your data. We have no process to consume your data. It is yours. And when you cease to need that data, you delete it.
All right. So thank you. And that will be it, at least for now. I want to thank you, both of you, for being there today, but also for all the training session we had, the discussion we had backstage. It was a very
AI is a big subject, and um it is now starting to take its place or really settle into its place in quality assurance. But people still have to be mindful of moving from a manual or automated test like practice over to embedding AI. They still have to be you still have to be careful. You still have to make sure that you're covering all your blind spots and ensuring that the organization is, you know, okay with it. So yeah, uh, definitely a great topic. Definitely not the last one that we're gonna have. If I can promote a little bit of SQALogic is
yep.
within the next few months,
If you don't do it, I'm
our
gonna do it. So, yeah.
our CTE is scheduled to have a great AI discourse on I believe it's who is testing the AI rather than testing with AI, who is testing the AI. So it's going to be a wonderful talk. It'll take place in Star West, if I'm not mistaken, later this year. I would definitely recommend people registering for that one or attending. I believe it's somewhere in sunny California somewhere.
Yes, and
Everyone's
we
invited.
will. Thank you, and we will give the date and the time slot on our LinkedIn page. That make me think, Lee, question, if I want to keep up to date with Keysight, where should I go? Should I go follow you on LinkedIn? Should I go on the website and subscribe to a newsletter?
So definitely follow us on the keysight.com. But yeah, you can follow Keysight on LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I try to repost everything that Keysight does, which can be a lot. But yeah, would recommend LinkedIn and the webpage.
Perfect. Thank you. And don't hesitate, of course, to also contact us, SQALogic.com, but also you can send me a message on LinkedIn. If you have any feedback about this webinar, if you're watching the replay and you want to give me a feedback, don't hesitate. And if you have any question regarding what we talked about today, of course, Albert is here, so feel free to contact him too. All right, I'm gonna let everyone go. Thank you very much again. Have a nice
Thank you, Quentin.
one. Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Quentin. Thanks, Albert.
Thanks, Lee.